Our first thing we do with every client is define language, right? Because in business, everything is subjective.
Mm,
So like you might go, oh, it's not busy enough, but I don't know what that means.
mm,
Like it's your understanding of what busy is.
yeah,
And so then it's like, okay, so what does busy look like to you?
mm,
Right? So we try to clarify so we make sure we're speaking the same language as that person.
yeah,
Um, but as an example, if you walked up with that, our team, first thing they would do is look at your location. We would study it. We would look at things like guest count.
mm,
Revenue is very misleading,
yeah,
right? Because you can't, we always tell people, I can't make you have more money, but I
mm,
can get 10 more people in your place,
yeah,
right? So that's a quantifiable ROI is people in the space versus how much money they'll spend. So, we'll look at that. We'll look at your traffic count. We'll look at all the basic things. But then I can also show you a place that's completely inconvenient, that's 10 times busier because they're doing it right.
yeah,
And people are willing to drive there, right? So everything from your occupancy. Sometimes people have a very unrealistic idea of how much physical space they have.
mm,
They buy a bar, they think I'm going to make X amount of money with an understanding that they have occupancy rules and you can only have so many people in there at the same time.
yeah,
And then at the same time, even if you have all the people in the world, if you have one bar that's got three wells,
mm,
those three wells are revenue centers. So if I have 10,000 people, and as an example, I'll exaggerate to clarify. So if I have 10,000 people in a space,
mm,
or I have 1,000 people in a space, but I only have one bar with three wells, the revenue is the revenue. It
yeah,
just comes with how fast you can serve them, but you're not making 10 times the revenue. You're probably making maybe twice as much
yeah,
with 10 times the people,
mm,
right? So it's understanding how the space works functionally, hence functional design, right? And then figuring, are you set up to make the money? So one of the things we ask our clients when you said, if you came to me and said, hey, this is my bar and it's just, we're not getting the traffic we deserve. We're in a busy area, but we're not getting the people we need. The first thing I would say to you is, well, how much money do you want to make?
mm.
And most people don't know the answer. And I'd say, if you know how much money you want to make, then let's reverse engineer that. And every decision has to be in alignment with that, the most realistic version of that number,
Mm,
right? And then we're going to find out how many people you need in your space to hit that number versus just saying, I want it to be busier,
yeah,
right? So we get very specific and that aligns the actions we want to take. An example, we have a lot of hotel groups. And
yeah,
what's amazing about hotel groups is that they're very passionate. They're very driven, but a lot of them are more into real estate than they are operations.
yeah,
So there's a lot of really asset managers who buy properties, they run hotels, and they do what the flag is, the Marriott, the Hilton, whatever, tells them to do.
mm,
They don't really necessarily have a strategic advantage in their own business because they don't know their own business. They know real estate very well and they know asset management very well.
yeah,
So as an example, we might have hotel groups that have, massive portfolios,
mm,
but they don't know how to teach somebody how to wait a table or how housekeeping should knock on the door.
yeah,
But yet they want their business to do better.
mm,
So a lot of them bring us in to work on those fine details so they can work on the real estate end and we can help them with their hotel management.
yeah,
Um, but the reason I bring that up is because we have everybody from that kind of a problem challenge
mm,
to the mom and pop who's like, we had seven people in our bar last night help us be
mm,
busier.
yeah,
So um, and then also you're typically dealing with substance, you're dealing with alcohol.
mm,
So you have to be mindful of that as well.
yeah. So I was just looking into some data today morning, and based on Toast, again, it's a market. They do a lot of market research. They were saying that for an average restaurant, the profit margin is slimmer, 2 to 6%, but for bars and nightclubs, it's 10 to 20%. But again, I feel this number is very
That's
much skewed by the big players, right? There might be a lot of people in the negative too, and then there will be just some big players influencing it.
I would say those numbers are accurate,
Hmm.
but accurate with a massive wide berth, right? So
Yeah.
I can give you what we understand is that like 2 to 6% for a restaurant, you're failing. You're going to go out of business. Like, no, it's too much work. So like there are restaurants, like example, like there's a lot of markets like in Colorado or New Mexico or Wyoming that are the restaurants are struggling because of the labor laws. So a lot of them are netting 5 or 6%, but that's still considered not good. So in restaurants, the goal is typically between like 12 and 17%.
Mhm.
And in bars, it's typically like 17 to 25%. Bars meaning, let's clarify, bars meaning not just bars, but bars with no food.
Mm.
Right, there's a bar restaurant, which basically means it's a bar that has a kitchen. And then
Yeah.
there's a restaurant bar, which is a full restaurant that has a small bar in it. So, it's figuring out the real estate and how much money you can make. But really, all your net comes down to your food costs in a restaurant, which are very high, and your labor costs of that kitchen, which
Yeah.
which can kill you.
I want to hear about your strategy, how you go step by step to help someone. So let me take an example. I own a bar in a suburb in the Brooklyn area, and it's a 20-year-old bar. We had a lot of regular customers. Now, post-COVID, we realized we're struggling with gentrification, changing demographics, and the business still doing okay on the weekends, but on the weekdays, sometimes we only have 10 patrons. Like we're not seeing enough customers. So how do we solve this problem? How do we stay competitive? How do we bring that mojo back to our bar?
Okay, so first thing I would do with a client, and I'm not going to put you up to the to answer every question. I'm just going to kind of give you an idea. So a lot of it, what separates what we do, without making this a pitch for our company, but just in general, I think what separates people who do really great consulting and people who don't, is essentially most of the time, whenever you have any kind of client in any kind of business and they want a consultant, unless they're really, really into figuring out what's wrong with their business or how they want to progress, they typically get a consultant, and most consultants agree with them.
Mhm,
And I understand because the consultant, to their credit, wants to get paid, right? So they're
mhm,
not going to fight the client and say, I think your idea is bad,
mhm,
right? So they tend to agree. We don't do that. Our goal is, how does our client win? And if our client wins, then it doesn't matter if they were right or wrong,
mhm,
right? Or we were right or wrong. So there's no ego on our side. So to answer your question, we look at everything like a trail of breadcrumbs, right? So the first thing you just said is, 20-year-old bar in Bushwick. It's kind of lost its buzz, down to 10 patrons on the weekdays. It's doing okay. There's gentrification issues. The neighborhood's changing. I'd say, okay, that's all on the surface. So how many patrons did you used to have on a Wednesday at 6 p.m.? Do you know that
mhm,
answer, right? And they go, well, not exactly. So I'd say, okay, it's just your perception of how things are, but what are the numbers,
mhm,
right? And also giving it its mojo back. Let's define what that is. Is it the quality of your staff? Is it and getting granular? Is it the bar versus the floor? Is it your
mhm,
host? Maybe your host is ruining everything.
mhm,
Maybe the person at the door who stands out there misrepresents the business, which happens a lot, even at nice hotels. The joke is, you'll go to a hotel in LA where they put $250 million into a project, and then they hire a guy who I would never put in front of a 7-Eleven or a gas station to greet people in front of a $300 million hotel.
mhm,
And they miss that part. They do everything, but they miss that part where you walk by and the person treats the guest crappy. So the first part of it is the assessment. It's figuring out your perception of your business versus the
mhm,
reality of your business,
mhm,
right? So if I just automatically take your word for it, I'm trusting your experience in bars and how to fix the problem, or else you
mhm,
wouldn't be calling us, right? So first thing would probably be some sort of a visit there,
mhm,
see what's happening, and it might be very obvious that your staff's disengaged. What's your staff knowledge like?
mhm,
Like one of the first things we do is we do an assessment, and we don't let anyone know we're coming in for an assessment. We just go in like an everyday patron.
mhm,
We'll say things like, "Oh, cool. How long has this place been open? Do they know
mhm,
the answer? What's your favorite item? Oh, everything's okay, I guess. Like we try to figure out their understanding of their own menu, their knowledge, who's in charge, what's the music like, what's the lighting like, what's the floor plan like,
mhm,
is it inviting, is it consistent, and then that tells us a lot. The reality of your business versus the owner saying it's lost its mojo. Maybe it's not gentrification at all.
mhm,
People just get treated shitty, and it's that simple. Or the staff's perfect. The product is great. They know their stuff, and no one's
mhm,
coming. And I would say, okay, well, let's talk about your guest profile. Well, let's
mhm,
be honest. What did it used to be like? And you would say, okay, well, you know, it used to be predominantly women that would come in here,
mhm.
and now
Yeah.
it's just all guys. And would say, okay,
Mhm,
is it a gentrification issue, or the type of music you're playing, or how people
mhm,
are being treated, or how clean the place is? So there's the thing about all these things is whether it's a hotel or a bar.
mhm,
The thing is that you can't look at it like a bar or a hotel or a restaurant. You have to look at it like a physical space that people all gather together to interact,
Right.
right? And like we always say, if you think about it, the bar and restaurant world makes no sense. It's a bad business idea. Think about it. So you came to me and you said, "Hey, I really, really want to open this room with a bar in it." And I said, "Okay, well,
Mm.
what's special about it?" And you said, "Well, we're going to charge 10 times for a drink what you could get at the grocery store." And I said, "Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would someone pay 10 times, 8 times what it costs to get it
But
somewhere else?"
but the stats are crazy. Like I was looking at stat like 35% of the millionaires order a drink when they go to a bar and restaurant. So that's a good number every time. So that was every time. And they also said that they order drinks at least 1 in 2 times, 60% of the times. So
Yeah.
if people want to have a drink while they are enjoying their meal, maybe like a glass of wine, then that's profitable for the restaurant, right? But again, I have heard getting a liquor license is sometimes tricky or expensive. So they
Depends
have
on the
to
state. Depends on the state. Depends
depends
on
to
the
state.
county. In places like Texas, it's a joke. It's very easy.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense that like if you serve a little bit of food with it, you basically, pay very little.
Yeah.
If you want straight alcohol with no food, then it's expensive.
Yeah.
But most people want to at least serve a little bit of food. It helps your
Mm.
sales. So, um, there's that part of it. I think what what the stats don't tell you is this. What the data doesn't tell you is this. Let's say you've got a guy who lives in Los Angeles in a nice neighborhood. He makes $180,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a nice leased car, right? And he's single,
Mm-hmm.
or let's say single or married.
Mm.
But once a week, he goes to this bar that's kind of like a dive bar
Mm.
on Melrose called the Dark Room. So I don't know if it's still open or not, but it was always a fun hangout. It's an average bar, right? But there's nothing about it that's like, it's just a dark room. It's called the Dark Room. And
Yeah.
it's a dive bar. And they show old Japanese movies on the TVs, right? So he goes in and he orders a PBR or a Yinling, a really cheap beer.
Mm.
A six-pack will cost you $5 at the grocery
Mm.
store.
Yeah.
They charge him 7 or 6 for a PBR.
Yeah.
And he sits there by himself and he wants to be left alone.
Mm.
And he wants to just like have a beer and just relax and watch TV. Now, here's why this is an example of the business that's really happening. Think about this for a second.
Mm.
Why would he pay 100% more, 1,000% more for
Yeah.
that, right? To sit alone, but want to be left alone around other people.
Mm.
That makes no sense. He wants to be left alone, but he wants to be around other people,
I see.
right? And then he wants to not, but he also, it makes no financial sense and it makes no social sense, right? So it's part of the human condition. It's why bars and restaurants and hotels and gatherings and food markets have been popular for about the last 100,000 years,
Yeah.
right? Whether you're a hunter-gatherer or you're going to the Met, it's the thing is that people need people. We're tribal. So even when we want to be left alone, we want to be around others. And that's what this business is really about.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to sit and observe too. Like I just want to have a drink and like look around.
Think
But
about how much better this country would be financially if there was no food you had to order. Like it would screw up our economy on one side, but everybody would have a lot more money.
and
If
we'll
you
be healthy like Japan, for example.
yeah,
Have the
everybody
least obesity rate. Yeah.
if you gave everybody a financial analysis and you said, okay, this is how much money you're going to spend eating out your entire life, that would
Mm.
probably be your entire like savings for your retirement.
Yes.
When it makes no sense. You pay 10 times what you're going to pay eating at home just to be around other people and eat around them.
Yeah.
So it's that trend's not going anywhere. And
Mm.
it's part of what makes us human. So when you start approaching bars, restaurants, hotels, football stadiums, in the sense that that's what you're designing it for, is for
Mm.
the best human interaction, and then
Mm.
that involves amenities like food and beverage, then
Yeah.
you start to understand the business. Like, why do some places just do better than others? I mean, look, you could argue and say that Disney versus Universal,
Mm.
right?
Another great example.
You could say all things being equal, Universal breaks down more, right? So you say, okay, maybe Disney just puts more money into their engineering and their staff, right?
Mm.
Or they don't. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
But in the end, let's say neither one of them, let's say they broke down the same. They were both as reliable. Disney, you just feel better. How do
Yeah.
you quantify that in a stat sheet?
No, I've seen people going to Disney even though they don't have kids. So
Yeah,
people do enjoy that experience. It's so nostalgic too. Like, oh yeah, even if you're not, I don't watch cartoons now, but yeah, I can go see, I revisit my childhood if I go to Disney. So that's still fun for me. And
yeah.
they have just created that X factor that people, irrespective of their age, would enjoy the experience.
And the thing is you have to ask yourself, what is that X factor?
Mm,
Like, what is it? Like, how, if you said I have to recreate it, how do you do that? It's a tough part that Chat GPT has a hard time with because it requires like forward thinking, not all
mm,
the information from the past, and um, it's all these subtle nuances, all
mm.
these ways, and all of it is with the intention of how do I make the guest feel cherished?
Yeah.
And that's an action, right? Versus like be nice to everybody.
Mm,
So I'm fascinated with it. I think
yeah.
it's I have definitely more. I fell in love with hospitality, like I said, because of the social element of the social experiment of
Yeah.
human behavior. I'm just fascinated with it.
100%. One question that came into my mind when I was asking you that old bar question, there might be a couple of bars, they're like not even 20, they might be 60, 80 years old. I have been into them. And sometimes, like, I personally enjoy that old, old smell of
Mhm.
the club, like that
Oh yeah.
feeling. But there might be other generation that might be saying, like, hey, the bathroom stinks. Hey, you need a makeover. And so, do you actually get projects like that when people are debating, hey, whether we keep that old feeling or we do some sort of a makeover? And how do you approach that? Because that's,
So yeah, so I would say two things. One, we do get those all the
mm,
time.
mm,
We get them all the time, but typically it's because the initial idea didn't work.
mm,
So like someone tries, whatever, Michael's beer house, and it just doesn't take off, but they have the lease for another 10 or 20 years, and they say, let me rebrand it as a new
mm,
business.
yeah,
That's when that happens. What you're talking about is I love the same stuff, dude. I love old bars. So my favorite bar, I think, all right, about so like my favorite bar that I go to that's old is in New York City, and it's called McSorley's, and it opened in 1854. It's been open for a
oh,
couple hundred years, right?
wow.
So um, they didn't update it. They didn't allow women in until 1970.
That's interesting.
This place is old, 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 and everybody who works there for the most part are people who, from what some of this is legend. It's not fact, but a lot of them are people from Ireland who come here on work visas, and they work in the bars and then they leave.
Oh, it's an
Some,
Irish bar? It's
yeah,
an
it's
Irish bar.
it's in
Yeah,
McSorley's Irish pub,
Irish
and
pub.
um, so I mean, you're talking like, I mean, 1854. I mean,
Yeah,
it's and
nice.
and the walls are covered with all original images and pictures and flags, and all the fans are bent down.
Love that.
Everything's real. So very famous place. But the point is that it would be, well, I think once a bar or restaurant or any business gets to a certain age, let's call it
Mm,
over 50 years, I'm making that up.
mm,
I think you realize it's working. Don't change it.
mm.
When you've been around for a couple hundred years, the last thing you need is a makeover.
Yeah,
You've proven over like five world wars that you're going to make it.
yeah.
Right? So, and that's the draw. I don't think if McSorley's ever did a makeover, nobody would want to go there anymore.
Yeah. But in my scenario, like the example, I came up with it because that was one of my favorite bars in my college town. I went there after a couple of years and they changed it. And then I asked the owner, why did you change that old feeling? And they're like, because we did not have so many regular customers, because every 4 years, new batch of students will come. And
College bar.
so that nostalgia element was for very certain customers. And I'm like, oh, okay, okay, that makes sense.
Where'd you go to school?
Oklahoma State,
Okay, that's right. That's right. Okay. So,
Stillwater, Oklahoma.
yeah, I mean, that's interesting with the college element. Yeah, you could look at it, I guess, because well, that's my first question then. My first question would be if that was our client, I would say I need
Uh,
to get your demographic because if you really are just having college kids there, then it doesn't matter.
mm,
Go ahead and make it over. But
yeah.
then I'd have to ask them, what's the ROI in the makeover?
Mm.
Right? Like, so you go put $150,000 into a makeover. Does that mean you're going to make more money next year? Or you just made yourself feel better about it? Because if it's kind of an old watering hole that just makes
Mm.
money like clockwork, why even, other than maintenance, why even put money into it?
Maybe things like, say, they don't have a kitchen, but they do have a lot of space. So they're thinking, oh, maybe we can have some space to add a kitchen and then add a dance floor because, again, very young crowd, college crowd. Most of the people are using fake IDs to get in. So,
Yeah, so that's the first thing I would say is I would look at a couple things. I'd say one, have you not got lost your license because you've been lucky? A lot of young kids get in, right? Which is typical with a college bar. Or is it more valuable that you put more security in than a kitchen? Because if your
Mm,
kitchen's going to cost you more, you're going to
mm,
lose space, revenue space
mm,
for the kitchen. You're going to put a kitchen in, even if it's a cheap kitchen for fries and burgers for college kids, you're still going to spend at least 50, 60 grand
mm.
doing that. To put a hood in, you've got to get an ANSEL system.
Plus,
You
you
got
need
to
to get a
do all that
safety
stuff.
inspection
Right.
done,
So
and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So you're gonna, let's just say realistically, somewhere between 50 and 100 grand is what it's going to cost you to put a kitchen. How many burgers are you going to sell here?
Yeah.
And now you have labor, and now you have to train staff to cook, right? And then before you didn't have to worry about that. So I would say let's add up the cost of the kitchen. Let's add up your labor on a one over 1 year, and then how much time you have to put into constantly with your turnover with your cooks because they're quitting and starting and quitting and starting, and you have to train them, right? And then you have your food costs that you never had before. So you've got to sell a lot of food to make it worth it. And
Yeah.
you're not a restaurant, you're a college bar. So are you better off just selling potato chips? Probably, right? And then I would say, but there's pros to food.
Mm,
But I would say, let's look at your numbers, figure out where your numbers are, and look what the best case scenario could be if you put your food in.
yeah.
And then also, it's not always about money or time, it's about time.
Yeah.
Because, like, let's say he does it all things being equal and he makes 5% more every
Mm,
year, right? Okay, great. But how much time did you lose? How much frustration do you have now? Because your kitchen's always a problem, right? So
yeah.
you look through that. So we help them weigh that decision and go, the
Mm,
idea of it's great, but what's the reality of it?
uh,
So before, let's say the bar owner could make a couple $100,000 a year net,
mm,
not having to do anything other than be like, yeah, make sure everyone shows up,
yep.
right?
Right.
Now he makes an extra 30 grand a year, but he has a fucking headache.
Yeah. Worry about the, yeah, more staff and kitchen safety and all those things.
We have
But
we have one client who owns 23 bars. I mean, he's never even a client. He's actually one of our consultants, but he started off as being like in that client relationship of being a friend as well. Incredible
mm,
guy, incredible
mm,
entrepreneur. I've learned a lot from him. But he owns 23 bars, Florida, Ohio,
different
and
states.
Chicago.
Mm,
And he doesn't sell any food. They're
wow.
only bars,
They're only bars, only drinks.
which is people say it's very difficult to do, and he's doing it at a very high level.
Wow. Love it. That's so interesting. But I
Yeah.
also like you're being so honest in your response because sometimes people would not think it through how much it actually costs. But even though it's against your interest, because you want them to probably want them to do a makeover so that you get a project, but you're still
Yeah.
happy to help them make an honest assessment about the return of the investment. So that's very interesting.
Well, that's the thing is it's really easy to tell people, yeah, your idea is great, do it. But then also, who am I to say their idea is not great?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to be able to look at it and go, what if they're, so for us, a lot of times we'll say no to projects and
Mm,
we'll tell people we think that you shouldn't do this for these reasons. And most of it has to do with their personality.
mm,
And which is really about what the biggest misconception in the business is that this is probably the only business where it feels kind of fun and sexy that everybody retires and they go, oh, I'd love to own my own bar.
mm.
Why? Right. And they think they understand the profit. They're like, oh, or they see a busy bar and they're like, oh, that
Yeah.
place is printing money.
The only part they see is like, okay, you can sell one beer for $8. Okay, that
Yeah,
sounds
that's it.
interesting.
They don't see that you're netting 11% on the entire
Mm,
business. So, as an example, but that's the bigger thing where I always use this analogy when I speak. I always say, we all brush our teeth, but that doesn't make us dentists.
mm,
And if I told you tomorrow, hey, I have this great idea, I need you to give me $500,000, I'll put in $500,000. Let's open our own
mm,
dentist office. And you'd say, well, Michael, what do you know about dentistry? And I'd say, nothing.
yeah.
And you'd say, well, that's a bad business idea. And I'd say, why? That's what they do with bars every day. I go to bars and restaurants. I should own one.
That's
So
interesting.
that's the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
Like it's not a really difficult business to run.
Yeah. No, in anything you need that good domain knowledge and years of experience. I 100%
I
agree
think
with
I
you.
think a lot of it has to do with intention too. I
Mm,
think when you're opening a bar because you're like, I want to make money, there's other ways to make money that is easier.
yeah.
And I think that once the allure wears off, that you're the cool guy, and a lot of it's men. It's not women. Women tend to be a little more like sensible about it, and men are like, oh, particularly guys who weren't cool in high school.
Yeah.
Now they're older and they made some money, and they're like, I'm going to be the cool guy who owns the bar. So.
I don't know who indirectly you're picking on, but if hopefully they won't share our episode.
No, but it's true. I mean, I think the thing about it is I can relate.
Mm,
Like, I wasn't popular in high school. At my last part of my high school, I was popular, but I was basically a dork in middle school
yeah.
and most of high school. And who doesn't want to be the guy that people go, "Oh, you own this place?"
I have one friend, like anything he sees, he's like, that's a good business idea. He sends his child to daycare and he's like, man, they're making so much money in daycare, we should open one. He's,
Yeah.
there are some people they just quickly want to jump into a business without having that knowledge. It's so funny to watch him get animated
Yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's something we all suffer from to some degree. I think that what I've tried to do now, and in many ways, I feel like I'm just starting my career,
Mm,
for what it's worth. And I think that my bigger thing is, like you hear a lot of these cliche sayings, but I do think there's merit. Is don't try to make money, try to solve a problem. And I think that people who go after businesses just to make money, and don't get me wrong, I want to make a ton of money,
mm,
but I think when your intention is only to make money, you're always looking at selling commodities versus necessities.
mm.
Like that's why Nike's amazing, right?
Yeah,
Because Nike sells a commodity that makes you feel like you have to have it. And
yeah,
same with Apple, and they're just amazing. So that's about marketing though, and
yeah.
then the product delivering on the marketing. So
Mm,
it's, I think the point I'm trying to make is that I think that when you look at opening any business, particularly a bar or restaurant,
mm,
people want to see the potential money they can make and how they look socially. They don't look at, hey, I really want to learn how to run a kitchen. I really want to learn
mm.
how to manage a staff, which is the kind of mindset you have to have if you're going to be a successful restaurateur. We
Yeah.
have a client in Havre, Montana, her and her husband are amazing operators.
Mm,
And she's an amazing operator because she started as a server and she
mm,
taught herself management and she runs an amazing restaurant. She's one of our best clients because she already knew her intentions were in the right spot.
mm.
And she's probably one of our best clients when it comes to being an operator and
Yeah,
being really efficient, because she knew the business she was getting into.
yeah,
She was getting into it to make an impact in her community and make money.
yeah.
I think that's so a lot of times we have to ask people that. Like a lot of
Mm,
couples retire and they want to open a bar or restaurant together.
mm,
And then you ask them, okay, well, what's your role going to be? And they think it's going to be walking around shaking everybody's hand.
mm.
And I told them before, I said, well, that's a bad idea. And they said, why? I said, because your staff's going to hate you. They said, why? I said, because you don't know what you're doing and you're getting in their way. You're stopping them from being efficient at their job because you want to take all the credit for being a genius.
Mm.
I go, if you're really smart, I go, when was the last time you saw Steve Jobs, God rest his soul, in an Apple store getting in the way of a sale? He
Oh yeah,
doesn't. Let your people work. Let them do
it's
their
a great
thing.
example.
Yeah, with a restaurant. I'm like, you have to let people do their jobs for you to win. And owners love to go walk on and go, yeah, I'm the owner of this place. But it's like no one's going to like you. Else you're putting yourself above the most important people in the restaurant.
Yeah.
So we always say, if you really want to win over your staff, go wash dishes.
That can be the best help and the toughest job
Yeah, go
also.
wash dishes, and then your staff's going to respect you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, a little bit of a tangent, but
Oh no, that's fine. I am also constantly getting different thoughts which might take us into other direction, but I have to
sure.
quickly ask, what do you think about like there are places where uh, because now there are so many airplanes, people love traveling. So people who live in like a tourist destination, say I was recently in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, right at the foothills of Smoky Mountains. So the native people might feel pressure like, okay, everyone is opening a business because there are so many tourists flocking in the summer, not just summer, even in winter, there's a skiing crowd. So if someone wants to open a bed and breakfast, so do you get such kinds? And what do you think about that idea? Because again, I don't have that knowledge for opening a bed and breakfast, but I know the location where I am makes a very suitable one for the business.
Yeah.
So what would you
Um,
take on it?
so one question I've been asking a lot of our clients and people that I work with, and myself as well when I do ventures now, and it sounds like you're taking the heart of the matter out of it.
Mm,
And I'll explain why, because it seems very maybe base in nature, but it's like I say, okay, well, I think, yeah, it could work. The bed and
mm,
breakfast in your area absolutely could work. How much money do you want to make? And no one has an answer.
yeah.
I've never had one person say, well, I want to make this amount every year and I want to net this much. And he goes, I haven't put that much thought into it. But you're looking at buying a major property or leasing a major property and
Mm.
dedicating 20 years of your life or someone you know's life to this project. How much money do you want to make?
No, say I'm retired. I have a big house, but all the kids have now gone to doing job in big cities. So we
So I
have
would
like,
still say to you, okay, that's good. So you've got some
mm,
savings, your kids are good, you don't have to
mm,
work, you want to do this project. How much money you want to make? And I would say
uh,
that. And here's the reason why is because I'd say, here's what it's going to cost to do it.
mm.
And here's how much time it's going to take. And you're retired. And you're probably going to have to work harder now than you ever did when you were working. But you don't
And
know
it'll
that.
be hard with with like your
Right.
65
And then
plus. Yeah.
also think about this. Think about the opposite side of the business. How much money do you have if things don't go well the first year?
Mm,
You could tank yourself into your life savings because you had an idea that you thought was cool.
yeah.
So what I'm getting at is not I'm sizing the client up, but what I'm getting at is the juice worth the squeeze.
Yes.
So if you tell me, okay, listen,
Mm,
Michael, I appreciate your concern. I do. And you're a great consultant and blah, blah,
mm,
blah. But the truth is, me and my wife, we have old oil money. We're sitting on
mm,
about $30 million a year. We bring in about
mm,
6 million a year just by
mm,
residual income without
mm,
working. I
mm.
want to build this resort and I'm willing to put in $5 million for it. And if it breaks even every year, I'm happy.
I'm still, yeah.
And I go, okay. Then I'm like, cool, let's rock and roll. And can I have 7 million for the budget?
Yeah.
You know, but most people aren't in that situation. Most people have put money in stocks and they have some money coming in. And what I found is the people with money hang on to it.
That's
So there's
interesting.
an old saying, a fool and their money are soon parted, right? So
Yeah.
I tend to find that people who have a lot of money, a lot meaning let's call it more than 5 million a year, right? Anywhere between 5 million and 200 million. People that I've not I have tons of people that I know who make 200 million a year, but I have some.
Mm.
And they're the ones who are very conservative about cutting a $50,000 check. They don't throw their money around. That's why they have it.
On the flip side, someone who just reaches $100,000, maybe six figures, they want to diversify their income. They want to open a business.
Yeah, look, and I think that can be smart, but I think it's got to be scalable, right?
Mm.
So there's got to be like a huge upside and a very
Yeah.
little downside, and then it depends on what it means to people.
Mm.
Money's not the thing that deters me. I'm just honest about it.
Yeah.
Like I guess I've done a lot of projects in my life where I really love the reward I got was the knowledge and the creative element, and there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of money, but I did that when I was younger. The thing now is the reason why I think money is so important is it makes things possible. It allows you to do more stuff. So I think if that's what your intention is, it's just another vehicle. But when it comes to the bed and breakfast as an example, it's a huge undertaking. And the first thing, like tomorrow, if you were to call me and say, this is real, I really want to do this, I would say, okay, well, let's walk through the amount of work it's going to be.
Mm.
And then you might have people that want to just work for you and do it. And I go,
Yeah.
great. It's great. But I always feel like it's my job to be able to say, you're aware of how much work this is and really show it to people versus, you know what, you should do it. You should hire my company,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
yeah, love that. Which brings me to the point because you mentioned about yourself. I want to ask you what has been your some of the best accomplishments and proudest breakthroughs? Because it's been a journey, right? It's been a long journey for you in this hospitality industry.
I appreciate that. I think it's funny when it's a great question. I think when people talk about breakthroughs, it's always this sort of like, and then I got this part in the movie or I got this grant for this business. My best breakthroughs have been through, I guess, what you would consider failure.
Mm,
I've never really had a breakthrough from success.
mm,
Because I always like breakthroughs really are personal perspective and how you see things and how you apply that experience.
yeah.
My biggest breakthrough was when I was in my early 20s, like 20 years old.
Mm,
I initially when I was young, I really loved acting,
mm,
and I booked a role on a soap opera,
mm,
an ABC soap opera in 2000. And that's back before there were reality shows. So soap
mm,
operas were like a really big deal.
yeah.
And I booked a contract role, and I was on it for almost a year. I was very focused at the beginning, but I didn't realize I really didn't like it very much. But I was too young to know the difference because I went from, making very little money and being broke in New York to making 5, 10 grand a week,
Yeah.
and I ended up getting myself fired off of it. I
Mm,
started complaining a lot and I complained to my boss, who's
mm,
probably a guy in his 50s at the time, and I'm
mm,
20.
mm,
And he was very nice to me, very polite. And then 2 weeks
mm,
later, I was fired.
mm.
And even though I was on some level, I know I wasn't really happy on the show. I was 21 years old. I didn't know anything. And
Yeah.
I was so hurt by it. But then I really couldn't get work.
Yeah.
So for a couple of years, I struggled like to get like a $10 an hour host job.
Mm,
And I struggled in New York. And that struggle of like being broke and being young and being lazy and then being
mm,
driven and then being lazy
mm,
and things like that really helped me. But I really struggled. I really, really struggled. I didn't come from money. And uh, that was probably the most valuable breakthrough of my life,
mm.
right? Because I became very grateful and I realized that obviously the cliche that everyone's replaceable.
Yeah.
But when I got a really good job at the Tribeca Grand after that,
Mm,
and I remember coming to work on my off time
mm.
because I wanted to learn and I wanted
Oh,
to be
wow.
so valuable that I would never be fired because that feeling with that cut was so deep.
Yeah.
So I was just like, how do I make sure that everyone can be fired, but how do I make it where I'm so valuable as an asset that they're like, this guy's almost irreplaceable?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of it was just out of pure fear because in New York you get eaten up when you're not working, and
Yeah.
like anywhere else, but New York it's just intense. And
Mm.
um, I would say that was a major breakthrough. And then
I've actually heard from a lot of people that getting fired has actually turned the corner in their life because
yeah,
then it compels them to bring their A game to their next gig, and that's what's very important.
yeah, that one I'd say that was my biggest breakthrough at a young age, and I'd say my biggest
Mm,
breakthrough for me probably happened at like 43, 44 years old.
mm,
40, I'll be 47 in November. So it's 4 or 5 years ago. And basically it was like getting back to where I was as a kid. Like I think I really knew who I was when I was 6 or 7 years old. I was a very creative kid, and
yeah.
I looked at everything very differently.
Mm,
And then I spent the next 30 years, 35 years, um, trying to do something else or prove
yeah.
something else, just to
Mm,
get back to the kid who was really creative. So
wow.
that was like a real turning point in my life because I realized that a lot of people I was surrounding myself with really didn't understand me,
Yeah.
and I was really holding back what I was doing so I could work with the wrong people,
Mm,
you know? And God bless them. They were great. They were great, additions in their own. It just didn't work. So I
mm,
changed a lot in my life.
yeah.
Um, that's one reason why I built Maverick Theory. I wanted to do
Wow.
something that no one had ever done. So, and
It's a brilliant concept.
it's a work, and it's still a work in progress.
Mm,
So we have a lot to do and a lot to prove. So, but yeah, those two big things I would say for sure.
yeah. Michael, this was a great talk. I think it's a great learning for me in this industry, and I'm so grateful for your time
Oh, say
coming to
thanks for
me.
having me on. I love let me pontificate for a
Yeah.
couple episodes. This is great, man.
Yeah, I would probably like to invite you again, maybe in a couple of months, if you
Yeah.
have an exciting story, or maybe we'll discuss some particular marketing technology. I know
Okay.
you guys do geofencing, which is very cool, but we haven't
Yeah.
talked about it in this edition.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll talk about some maybe more marketing and some more cool stories. Again,
Yeah.
you're a great
Also,
storyteller,
I can
a
bring some
very
guests on. I can bring a guest on with me too if you want.
yeah, that would be great. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I love it, Michael, and my favorite part about you is how humble you are. So thank
Thanks, man. I
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate that. Thanks for having me on as a guest. Appreciate it.